Hello, everyone. It's Reverend Geek. I'm back. I said I would. So, this is going to be my review of the first episode of the 60th anniversary specials for Doctor Who. This was entitled The Star Beast. It is actually based on a comic book that's probably about 40 years old, a comic book story. Certain elements are the same, certain elements have been changed, but here's the thing, they gave credit at the beginning of or I should say during the title sequence, they gave credit to the writers of that story. Now, what's unique to be aware of is usually in Doctor Who, when we have these type of anniversary specials, it becomes multiple Doctor. If you look through the annals, you can look up the 3 Doctors, the 2 Doctors, the 5 Doctors. Even Day of the Doctor, which was the 50th anniversary, was a multiple Doctor story arc. It brings back a couple of familiar faces, and they do things. Well, we're not getting that promise right now. Russell T Davies, as he starts his second tenure as the showrunner, or as fans are calling it, RTD2, he is adamant that there is no other Doctors in these other stories, but some people are speculating that is a red herring, but we will see. So, let me dive into the storyline of the Star Beast. It began really good because one thing to be aware of is we here in America, we call our shows, we divide them by seasons, and over in the UK they divide them by series. So it's kind of an interesting correspondence. Actually, the 26 original classic Who is called seasons, and then New Who, as it started, it began with series. We had series 1 to 13 plus specials sprinkled in there. The new series, once it begins with Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, it's going to go back to season 1 now that I've heard that. Now, I say this because the interesting thing about how this episode began, and I think it was really good knowing that they were going to probably get a lot of new people into Doctor Who through Disney Plus, was they give a recap, and it's a recap told with both the Doctor and his companion Donna breaking the fourth wall and giving you what happened way back between series 2 and 3 with the Runaway Bride special, and also the 4th series, because that was Donna's series. And so they give you this nice little rundown, and it ends with the two of them really asking questions. Donna's asking, what is she missing and why? The Doctor, now in his 14th incarnation, and I think it's interesting, nobody's mentioned this that I've heard of yet, is the 14th Doctor's asking why he has this face again. This face is the face of the 10th Doctor, and it goes back, I think people are forgetting that in the 50th anniversary, when the 11th Doctor runs into the person called the Caretaker, it is hinted that the Caretaker is another incarnation of the Doctor, and tells him that you will have the ability to regenerate again. And not only that, but you're going to revisit some familiar faces, but only the favorites, as he says. And I think this is that hint. That is a nice little Easter egg that happens to us in this that nobody's really paid attention to. There's another Easter egg I'm going to get to in a little bit, but I really like this. We've heard this, it was basically almost 2 years ago when the episode aired that showed the regeneration from 13 to 14. We were told that this was going to be a new incarnation with a new personality. Now, so far, this personality is very familiar, very similar to the 10th, But even David Tennant has said there are certain little differences, little nuances that are unique to the 14th that's different from the 10th. We'll see what that is. We already noticed the costumes are similar yet different, so we'll go from there. Anyway, the episode then goes into the title sequence. We get the title, The Star Beast, and usually the first episode of any new Doctor is written by the showrunner. Russell T Davies gets the credit, but if you look underneath, there are 2 more names given. Those are the names of the people that originally wrote the original Star Beast storyline, which this story is based on a comic book that happened about 40 years ago-ish, and that storyline is carried over into this, kind of retold, but also freshened up. So we go into this, and it's very interesting to see how it is. The Doctor and the TARDIS land somewhere in London. He opens it up. One thing people will notice is when he first opens up the door, it's dark in there. A lot of people during when this scene was first shown in the first official trailer several months back, people were saying that it was dark because the CGI was not done yet and it was to hide stuff. But really it wasn't. It was for the big reveal at the end of the episode. Again, we'll get there. So he comes out, he's walking, he ends up running into Donna. There's some classic Doctor and Donna banter that goes on. We hear her, her infamous "Oi, skinny man," and it brings you back. You instantly start to feel like you're getting sucked back into classic New Who. And it brings us into this whole thing. She calls for her daughter, Rose. Rose comes up. Rose has her own storyline in this. And what we start to see really with this is a very interesting bit of classic, like you're seeing Donna become unaware of the stuff going on around her as the Doctor and Rose are seeing an alien ship seemingly crash to the Earth and all sorts of things, and she's unaware. She's like, "Spaceman, ha ha ha," and it's kind of interesting because the whole thing with Donna, which we need to go back, is Donna had absorbed memories through something called the meta crisis of the Doctor, and it was too much for her human brain to absorb with all that alien technology, or however you want to say. So she was told that she would die if she ever remembered the Doctor, and it was very interesting. It was a real interesting point. I think it begins. I'm glad that we resolve it in this episode, because I think a lot of people, if it had been hanging over us for 2 more episodes, it would have gotten old fast. So I'm glad it gets resolved in the end, but we'll get there. So anyway, things happen. The Doctor gets in Sean's car. So Noble Temple. She didn't take Sean Temple's last name, but she gets into Sean's car. The Doctor gets into Sean's cab, finds out some things that probably lingered for fans, like the fact that the Doctor had given a winning lottery ticket to her as a wedding gift. Find out that she gave all the money away to charity, and that they are living pretty much back paycheck to paycheck. She's lost her job. Sean is driving a cab. Rose is struggling in school. There are things that really, for the Doctor, because he loves Donna and he loves her family. Basically, they are pretty much, aside from, I think, Rory and Amy and River, who are companions of the 11th Doctor. They are really his true Earth family, if you want to call them that. And so it brings in this interesting thing. Anyway, getting too far down the road, what ends up happening here is the Doctor has Sean bring him as close as he can to where the site of this rocket crash lands, and I'm using quotation fingers there. What ends up happening that we find out is it's not really crashed. The Doctor is sitting there. It's a very interesting situation. So along the way, one thing that ends up happening is the Doctor sees what he needs to. We get a first taste of that Disney money, well, second, third, depending where you are. But the sonic screwdriver, a lot of people are saying the sonic screwdriver is so OP'd. But here's my thoughts on it. We always knew that the sonic screwdriver did a lot. I think we were left to our imaginations to know how the Doctor knew certain things were going on. But now we get to see that because they have the budget to be able to create the holographic CGI effects to do it. Some things are going to take, I think, people out of it. Some people are going to like some of the stuff, but we'll see. Anyway, while he's using this to see what's going on, he runs into Shirley Ann Bingham, played by Ruth Madeley, and she is a unit agent, scientific advisor. I forget what her number is, 56 or 58, something like that. And the Doctor's like, well, I'm number 1. And she's like, I know. And it was kind of a nice little banter back and forth. Kind of where we get to see her kind of geek out on him, fangirl out a little bit. But it was really handled really nice, and I like what happens later on in the story with her. But we find out that something has gone on. They're trying to figure out who the creatures were in this thing. We find out unit agents do get possessed, I guess we would say, by some sort of glowing spirit. I forget what the Doctor calls those, but anyway, we find out that Rose, she is out in the shed, which is kind of interesting. She's trying to make money for the family, doing things, and she meets with this kid, Fudge, I think his name was. And Fudge tells her that, hey, you gotta come and see what's going on. There's an escape pod, and there's a creature that's escaped. And basically, the long story short there is Rose runs into Beep the Meep. I'm not making that name up, Beep the Meep. Beep the Meep ends up going back with her to the shed. Donna comes into the shed. Things are there's a little bit of comedy there, some good comedy, and we instantly think that Beep is this hunted down, cute little, I don't know what kind of creature. The hands were creepy, but the voice and the eyes, this was kind of like the innocent puppy dog looking up at you type thing. There's kind of an E.T. moment that happens there too, but this all starts to spiral down with them trying to figure this out. Cut back to Donna's apartment. The Doctor shows up. Donna's mother is trying to keep the Doctor and Donna separated. She reminds the Doctor, you said if she sees you again, she'll die. And he's like, no, I said if she remembers me, she'll die. And it's kind of this funny little back and forth. But eventually the Doctor gets in there so he can save the Nobles and Temple family. And it's just really a nice little thing. We get to see the Sonic create these shielding walls. I don't know what else to call them, but they get up there, they escape out of the house, they get into a car. As they're escaping, there's some shooting and back and forth and all sorts of things. This leads us, and I'm kind of speeding along, this leads us to an interesting scene in a parking garage. Now, I don't know what they call it in England, but I'll call it what we call it, a parking garage. And in the garage, what ends up happening here, the doctor recalls what he had just seen, starts to realize that they weren't trying to kill Beep, Beep, I forget. Anyway, the name gets confusing. But then goes ahead and does this whole thing where he pulls out a judge's wig, lawyer's wig, I don't know what to call it. If you know anything about the British legal system, you'll know that they wear the powdered wigs. Anyway, this happens. This is the first time we see something new with the 14th Doctor that you sit there and say that the 10th wouldn't have done this. But we see this. He calls on the Shadow Proclamation, which goes all the way back to Episode 1 Rose, and has been a continuous thing going on in all the seasons of New Who. And basically, this short little trial thing leads to us finding out that cute little Beep the Meep is really one of the most sadistic, ugly-looking sociopaths in the universe. And so there's all this stuff where now they've got to go and they've got to stop him, and all this stuff goes on. They basically go back to the warehouse where the ship is, and all these people have been continuously brainwashed into being Beep the Meep's hench people. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. The interesting part is, during this whole time, the drive back, all sorts of stuff, what ends up happening is Donna starts to remember who the Doctor really is. She admits that she gave the money up because she was trying to be like the Doctor. And we get to this one scene where the Doctor, once they are able to escape, he does the typical Doctor thing and runs into danger. Donna decides to go with him. Again, we do come into Shirley Ann Bingham's character. Well, the character of Shirley Ann Bingham. She's got this wheelchair that is rigged. I'm going to go with it because that's something you'd expect with somebody that works for a unit. But it leads to this one point which people thought was going to be in the last episode, I think, or actually the next episode of the specials. But it leads to this one scene where the Doctor and Donna are separated on opposite ends of this glass, and there's no way for them to get to the other side. And it brings back shades of how the 10th Doctor regenerated. In fact, there's even a similar reaction with the 14th Doctor that the 10th Doctor had. But in this one moment, Donna, even though she's come now to realize that this is the Doctor, and she's not going to die, she hasn't died, she hasn't had anything, but the Doctor does tell her there is one way that they can save the people. This ship is going to have some kind of launching system that's going to basically incinerate all of London. And Donna agrees to go with it, which is basically allowing the meta-crisis back into her brain so that she has the Doctor's brain. And the Doctor doesn't want to do it. He's crying. And Donna, in this act of bravery, says she would do anything to protect her family. She would do anything to protect Rose. And so we see that she has grown up quite a bit in the years since we've seen Donna last, and that is where I think this episode really had the thing. The doctor then, as he's talking, is saying these words, which upsets Donna for a bit, but it turns out these are words that are used to set off the barriers in the mind that are keeping the metacrisis there. And so the metacrisis is activated. Donna helps the doctor defeat Beep the Meep, and then apparently dies in the doctor's arms. But then, when all seems lost, and that's the one thing, there is this one moment where it seems like Beep the Meep is going to win the battle. The biggest thing that we see that happens is all of a sudden Rose is able to end the thing, and this is because Donna, having a child, has split the metacrisis so that it won't kill her. Donna's actually alive, and because of the doctor being quote-unquote non-binary, this allows Rose, who considered non-binary, to, I don't know, it's kind of one of those meta-wonky, timey-wimey things, because they're saying it in one way, and you're kind of saying to yourself, if that was the possibility from the start, why couldn't the doctor have just absorbed that extra energy? Because it's basically what the metacrisis is this regeneration energy. It's one of my few faults in this episode. I think they ended it well, but there's still some things that I think fans are going to sit there and go, if this was all part of the regeneration, and we know what it was like when the doctor had regenerated from the 9th to the 10th, and there was this extra energy, and if this is what he did, he used up another regeneration, then why couldn't he absorb that energy? Especially when you think of it, you're thinking of the 11th Doctor absorbing all of River Song's regeneration energy to get back to life. But then again, this is the one thing about the show that's 6 years old. It's got a good continuity, but at other times, some of that continuity gets really timey-wimey and wonky all about. So, just my thoughts. You know, I like how we settled it, that this isn't gonna loom over our heads now, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, you know, was there a better way of explaining this? Just my thoughts. All right, end of the rabbit hole there. So Donna's gonna live, Rose is gonna live, everybody's happy. Beep the Meep ends up getting captured after trying to do one more thing. It seems like the end of the story. We get to this point. Some interesting stuff. We know Wilf is alive, even though they do hint that he's dead. It's misunderstood that he's dead. I kind of wondering how they're going to handle that. I'm expecting Bernard Cribbins back for the 3rd episode, only because we know that he shot stuff. But it was kind of interesting knowing that he passed away earlier this year, that they're going to have to somehow tie that into the episode, into the series. So we will see. We will see how that goes. But that said, Donna decides she wants to go bring the doctor to Wilf, because Wilf loves the Doctor we know loves Wilf. There's that father-son type relationship that they established in the 10th Doctor's last 2 episodes. So we're going to see this come back at some point, but Donna goes in there. We get this whole new TARDIS interior, really clean looking. It's not dirty like the 9th, 10th Doctors was, or even the 13th Doctor seemed a little dirty. It's not steampunk. It looks very classic Doctors, like from the original classic crew. Like, I think Disney might have wanted it this way. It looks like that it will change the colors on the inside. I don't know how that's going to go completely, but it's kind of interesting. We get this bigger control console. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes, but I bring that up only because after we get this beautiful reveal and the Doctor makes Donna some coffee, it turns out Donna's talking about how she got fired from her job, and it's because she spilled coffee. And sure enough, the coffee spills into the console. The console starts to look like it's going to blow up, and we end the episode. Now, I'm going to try to keep this down to 3 minutes here. I want to try to keep this down to a half hour. So here's the thing that I want to say. Things I liked about this episode is we got some great Easter eggs. One of the other Easter eggs was the 14th Doctor's theme. Nobody's talking about that, but we get this music for the 14th Doctor, knowing that the 15th Doctor has his own theme. All the other Doctors, 9 through 12 or 13, have had their themes, so it only seemed logical that we were going to get a 14th Doctor theme, and we do. And just as the 14th Doctor is a familiar face, same face as the 10th, the music is similar, almost the same as the 10th Doctor's theme, but it's also different. That's a great Easter egg. The other thing that I like is that we're seeing a lot of potential with him. I think people are going to want to see more episodes with him, and I'm sure there's talk right now with the 8th Doctor coming back for his own limited series that we may get more 14th Doctor adventures. We will have to see how that is possible. But that said, it just feels like Doctor Who is back. Don't get me wrong, I have loved Doctor Who for years, but during Capaldi's run, it kind of started to lose steam. I loved Capaldi as the Doctor. 10 is my Doctor, so of course I'm going to love 14. I loved 11. 13, I liked some of her stuff, but the writing around her was not as strong as it was with the previous Doctors. And that's a shame, being that she was the first woman Doctor, and I think that if she had better writers and directors around her, we lost out on something huge. That said, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this goes forward. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm glad that we get 3 episodes back each weekend. Then we're going to have a couple of weekends off, and then Christmas Day we get the first episode with Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. So we're not going to have to wait a while. But if I were to give a rating on this episode, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. Like I said, there's a few things that I found a little chunky, clunky, but it wasn't a lot to take away from the show. They did some excellent tie-ins, some excellent Easter eggs. I'm waiting for people to really do a great Easter egg. Those are my 2 Easter eggs that nobody has said. Again, that the Doctor has visited now a familiar face, which ties back to the 50th anniversary, and that also we get a familiar theme with the 14th Doctor's theme. Alright, that's it. We'll be back. Let me know in the comments what other things you'd like me to talk about. Like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Geek out.